Hi, today we're in Louisiana, and this is the destroyed town of Bayou Sara. Little port town here on the Mississippi River. Right here, and this river is really, really low today. Typically, it's way up here, but I guess pretty bad droughts. In any case, you know, 200 years ago, in the early 1800s, this is full of just warehouses and homes and warehouses. As far as you can see, this is a big shipping port. You'd bring up supplies from New Orleans. You drop them off here, all these warehouses. They're on the, the riverbank here, and offload them for shipping up to Illinois in the northern states, and vice versa. The northern states would come down and drop off their supplies. So lots of cool stuff here. Anyway, my 3 times great grandparents, they owned a warehouse down here. Their names were John George's Spoor, Eleanor Bettinger, my 3 times great grandparents, and they teamed up with a guy named Antoine Lana. Antoine Lana was a rich guy. He had a couple homes out here in a nice big warehouse. That was in the 1853. But originally the Native Americans lived here. In the late 1700s, a French guy named Lejeune, he established a small plantation on the eastern bank here of Bayou Sara, probably right about here somewhere, as it empties in the Mississippi. So anyway, another guy named John H. Mills, he lost his sawmill up in Natchez in 1788, and he moved down here. He opened a new sawmill, and the settlement quickly grew, became the largest port in Louisiana next to New Orleans. And up the hill is St. Francisville, like the Myrtles Plantation, Rosedown Plantation. They're cotton and sugar plantations, blossomed up. So this place became super, super successful. Lots of shipping. It attracted the best and worst of American peoples, the Native Americans, then the French, the Spanish, and then the Americans as we know them today. It's a huge melting pot in America. We had free people, slaves, Creoles, Spanish, all sorts of mumbo jumbo. And all that came with a whole bunch of debauchery, slavery, and greed. So there's 13 hotels, lots of brothels. And the French on the map, they called this the River of the Jewish Virgin, also called Bayou Gonorrhea and River Gonorrhea. So this is a pretty bad place. Ladies never went out of the house unescorted, and they never went out of the house at night. It was so bad. And there's gunslingers and shootings, all the debauchery and the mischief you get from these riverboat towns. So today, the riverboats come up here, the paddle boats, little tour. They head from New Orleans up to Natchez and up farther north, like the American Queen. The Memphis Belle used to stop here. Used to be a boat called the Bayou Sara, little riverboat, and also the city of New Orleans. But this water level is so low, I'm not even sure they'll make it up here. Wow. Hey, so back in the heyday, when all these homes were here and the warehouses, they'd have these huge events, like a big flatbed barge would come out here, the giant calliope, and just play music and have huge fireworks, and they'd have big fairs, and just the circus would come to town every year. This place was super heyday. In 1855, there's a huge fire that kind of obliterated a lot of the homes and the warehouses, but they kind of rebuilt. And in 1912 was kind of the end of the end. There's a lot of snow melt and rain up north in the northern states like Illinois, and they run down here in the Mississippi. And 1912, there's this huge just waterfront of water that came down, giant wave. All the levees broke and it just obliterated everything here, just all underwater. It just wiped out the whole town downstream. And so that was 1912, and that was the end of Bayou Sara. This was once again just warehouses and homes and brothels and hotels and bars and gunfights and all sorts of goodies. Look how low this river is. You know, should be all the way to the top, if not overflowing, right? And we get alligators here. We'll find an alligator. What's really cool is looking for artifacts like bottles, maybe a piece of furniture, old whiskey bottle, beer bottle. When these bluffs break down, maybe not here because this is all underwater, but up higher where it starts to crack and break down, sometimes you get like a little bottle remnant of, you know, something from a bar. You'll see an alligator up this bayou here, Bayou Sara. So here's about as far as we're going to get up our little river here. You can kayak down, look for bottles, and it wraps around to a place called the Oyster Bar, which is a former site of Nellie's Hotel, which is right at the center of town on Front Street. We're going to drive the road. The road goes up around the back, and we'll check that out. Maybe we'll find an alligator, some bottles. This little building here is called the Oyster Bar. And it's used to be the site of Nellie's Hotel in 1850. It is operated and owned by a very successful black woman named Ellen Wooten. And next door was the Billard Bar. Up and down here were lots of warehouses and bars and hotels. And I'll show you a map here of what it used to look like. And of course, this is the new Bayou Sara, and the original one was past the tree line here. And all this was all homes and warehouses. So this map here, with a little arrow on it, that shows us where the Oyster Bar is today. Kind of gives you an idea of the layout of this town. So also along Front Street, there's a tailor shop, the mayor's office, the Ledger newspaper, 2 large houses, a ballroom, carriage house. At its peak, there's over 300 businesses and homes in this busy port of Bayou Sara, including one of our great cousins, Antoine Lana, and my 3 times great-grandfather, John George's Spore, and is their country store. Okay, and higher up on the hill, up here is the town of St. Francisville. And as there's a bunch of flooding that always happened down here, the people started kind of moving up the hill, and that's also where they built the Grace Church. Wow. So even though there's plantations up on the hill, lots of slavery, the actual town of Bayou Sara and St. Francisville, so in the most desegregated communities in all the South, with the largest free black population in the United States. So this is what it looks like today. Quite different from 200 years ago. And the Oyster Bar here is open. Not right now, they open in the afternoon. You come down here for food and snacks and beer and whatever else you want. Yeah, here's another look at our super low river here. So you go kayaking if you want. Watch out for alligators. And what's really cool, right, as the bluff kind of erodes away, you might get some bottles and old artifacts out of there. So we're going to head up the hill to the train and Grace Church. So back in its heyday, Bayou Sara was the terminus of the West Feliciana Railroad. We have an old rail car here. One of the South's earliest railroads that ran from St. Francisville down to Woodville, Mississippi. It's a historic landmark of Bayou Sara. And the train would bring stuff in and out, and especially once a year they had the circus came to town. And they'd have big parties out here, big fair, big country fairs. Lots of all the citizens would come out, all sorts of parties. Big old country fair. Here's the Bayou Sara Market, right here. And this colorful caboose here, with the railroad logo, Illinois Central Gulf, and the paint scheme likes to be all bright here for everybody to see. That's our little caboose of the West Feliciana Railroad. We're going to head up the hill a little more, up to the Grace Church. So up the hill a little bit, we're going to look at the Grace Episcopal Church. Okay? So originally there was a First Church, a Methodist church, and it was down by the water on Sun Street. Kept flooding out 1844, so they moved it way up to St. Francisville. But this church here, this is the Grace Episcopal Church. It's Protestant. And the congregation started in 1827, but they didn't have a church to worship in. So they started building this in 1858 and then finalized it in 1860. And it's the second oldest Protestant church in Louisiana. And the residents down in Bayou Sara, down the hill where we just were, you have to walk up the hill to come here. So in my 3 times great grandfather, John Georges Spohr and Eleanor Bettinger, they got married actually down at Antoine Lana's house down by the riverfront in 1858. They came up here, and here's where they had their reception for their wedding, at this church here. What's interesting, here's the called the bell tower here, and the bell tower was visible down the waterfront. So when the Union gunboats came up here during the Civil War, they'd target their cannons at the high points of the churches because they could see the steeples and the towers. And this whole church was kind of obliterated during the war. And it took about 30 years to restore it. And here's what it looked like in 1893 after they were done. And pretty much looks exactly the same. They have a big graveyard here. If you want to come up here to take a look at who's buried, we got people who are old and people who are new. We got families and all sorts of goodies. Very nice cemetery. So now we're up the hill. We're in the town of St. Francisville, Town Hall. Cute little, beautiful little street here. We have the fire station, mercantile, lots of little clothing, craft shops, Pubril and Rain shops here, boutiques. So just gonna walk down a little bit and I'll show you some of these cute shops. And there's a little coffee house called the Birdman. So we're gonna check out that. Marquee here for Main Street. We got the little barber and styling shop. Bohemiaville Antiques here. And out that way is the main highway. Takes you out to Myrtles Plantation. That's where we're staying tonight. Check out some little antiques here. And then we'll go get some coffee. Just stuff. A little bird. Yeah. How about that? A pony. Rocking chairs. Real cute town. So we'll keep walking around. Here's the Cafe Petra, or like Petros, like the Pelican. It's a Greek and Lebanese restaurant. It's real cute. Here we have Stem's Boutique. Here's a Magnolia's Cafe. Very nice. We're gonna head over here to the Birdman little cafe for a cup of coffee. So all up and down these streets of St. Francisville, we got these beautiful historic homes. All built around the late 1700s, early parts of the 1800s. This one here, this is 1905, but it's still historic. It's a nice looking home. And we got another one here. All decorated for Halloween. This one's called Prospect, 1809. Anglo Creole cottage with a giant spider. We got another beautiful home. It's called the St. Rhine, I don't know, 1894. Wow, these are cute little wraparound porches. Here we got another one here. It's called the Printer's Cottage, 1814. Must be by the printer. And here's his newspaper, the Democrat. There it is. All right. We've got an old one, old brick home, 1809. Propinquity. Little statues for the entrance. Propinquity, 1809. Spanish colonial architecture. Here we go. Wow. All up and down this road here. Here's another one here across the street. Okay. Little pink home. Serendipity, they call it. This one here. Another old home. Okay. Called the Cabildo. Cabildo, 1809. So you can tell a lot of it's Spanish or some's not. This is called Grandmother's Buttons. I think it's called the Button Shop. Okay. And this is Grandma right there.
Okay.
And Grandma's going to go in the Grandmother's Button Shop. So,
We're gonna
drive up.
so we'll probably be here about 4 hours once she finds a button. All right. Yeah, these are just absolutely amazing homes and gardens, cottages. This beautiful fence here. Wow, look at this house. Unbelievable. It's called the Virginia. 1855. 1817 it started. 1855 completed. And so I can go down this whole block and look at all these beautiful homes here. The Golson House, 1885. But I think we'll call this video done. Up in St. Francisville, Bayou Sara, Louisiana. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.